I thought I was going to work on my lawnmower today. James must have had something else planned. He never came. And the storm's coming really close. So I think I'll make a stab at see how much backyard I can get cut. First, let's walk around the bean patch. Let's go cut grass. Good day, viewers. Walter here. I'll make a little dump run. I was going to work on the lawnmower today and take the engine off, but it stayed cloudy and rainy most of the morning. It's got afternoon and the weather's cleared up, but I don't have enough time to do it today, so I didn't do anything on the lawnmower. But I thought I'd take a chance, thought I'd take this opportunity to share a little railroad story with you while I'm out and about. It relates to working under box cars and rail cars with the railroad. One of my viewers mentioned, be careful working under laying under my lawnmower out there to work on it, James's lawnmower I should say. And it brought this story to mind, so I thought I'd share it with you. In the meantime, you're going to be watching me drive to the dump. Appreciate y'all tuning in today. Today was quite dismal and dreary, so I decided I'm going to share a story with my viewers, a bit of what it was like to work under a railroad car. For example, box cars, gondola cars, tank cars, covered hoppers, stuff such as that. My latest project I'm working on, I've been working under a lawnmower that I have jacked up in my driveway. Someone mentioned I needed to be careful working under there, and it reminds me of the times gone by when I worked many a day under a railroad car as a railway carman, repairing and doing maintenance on the cars. It was my job with the Southern and the Norfolk Southern Railway for 34 years, so I do have some experience in it. There were certain dangers encountered during those times, and there were certain precautions we had to take before doing it. But occasionally, things still happened. Did you ever watch a mechanic working on your automobile while standing under your car that is hoisted up on a lift and think, what if the hydraulic lift failed and it came down with a thud? What were his chances of survival would be? It was the same way working on railroad cars we had jacked up in the air, and sometimes when we had them hanging by cables from a derrick crane. Basic rules apply. Never walk under a rail car in the air without some protection. Basic common sense applies, as cables often break and jacks sometimes fall or tip over. Stuff happens. Many a railroad worker made his end over the years by not heeding safety precautions. I suspect it's the same way with all the mechanics. If I have to go under a railroad car jacked up in the air, I will first make sure there's something under there with me, like a set of trucks or a pair of wheels, to stop the falling rail car from squashing me like a bug under somebody's shoe. Something like a full set of trucks is the best thing to have under there with you. There were times we had to roll the wheels up from under there, the trucks up from under there to change the wheels. And there'd be nothing under the car, but you tried to stay out from under there then. Other times you can crib up blocks or cross ties under there. I've done that. Anything to look out for number one. In the case of my lawnmower, I have some jack stands under the mower lift as an added precaution. I still get nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs every time I see a mechanic standing under an automobile up in the air. I'm telling you, you don't put all your trust in mechanical things, as they all sometimes fail. I have spent hours and hours working under rail cars, usually with the wheels still under there with me, of course, but things still happen. I'll relate a few things that come to mind. I am sure I'm forgetting many, as 34 years is a long time. A few of the tasks we had to do under rail cars were performing maintenance on brake pistons, adjusting brakes, brake rods and slack adjusters, exchanging brake valves, welding stuff, repairing and replacing various broken parts. It's often very cramped conditions under there, and very often unclean and uncomfortable sitting or squatting. I always tried to keep a large piece of cardboard with me to sit on. You would be amazed how much more comfortable it can be sitting on cardboard instead of having rocks poking you in the behind. In the shops, the conditions there were very dirty and greasy as well. Once in Griffin, Georgia, while working in a mixture of dirt and rocks under a boxcar on the dray track, I scooted wrong and got punctured in my behind with a piece of broken glass. It did require stitches at the local hospital emergency room. It is mandatory that all accidents be reported to the company, so when I got to the Griffin Depot, I faxed my superior in Columbus, Georgia, the following poem. It happened today while working on the dray. I sat on some glass and punctured my ass. If you don't believe my story is true, I'll show you my ass. It's all black and blue. I often tried to pep up my reports to the office with a little touch of Pwalpar humor. More than once I sustained injuries under rail cars and locomotives as well. Burns and pinched and cut body parts was the norm, not to mention bumping your noggin on some metal brace somewhere. I recall once while adjusting some brake levers to get some slack in them and being too lazy or stupid, you might say, to crawl up under there and get a sledgehammer or a bar, I unwisely decided I would just kick it hard with the sole of my steel-toed boots. It was a poor idea. My boot slipped off the lever and hung up on the corner of an angle iron brace, gashed open the whole side of my boot and a large chunk of my enclosed foot. More pain. You could be laying under a rail car welding something with an arc welder. Sparks of slag dropping all around, often getting places you don't want them to be, like rolling around in your ear, and you hear it sizzle as it melts into your eardrum. It can get down in your boots and burn you. All you can do is tolerate it. It will cool off before you can unlace your boots. Getting slag in your shirt or pants often burns places you really don't want burned. I've had it get in my eyeball, even though I was wearing goggles. Singed my eyeball so bad I thought I was blinded. Went to a medical clinic for the railroad called Howell Clinic in Atlanta. An eye doctor scraped the outer clear layer covering up my eyeball off, directly over my pupil. Up until that point, all I could see was a blur. He put a patch on my eye and said, "It will grow back," and eventually it did. I still have astigmatism from that episode. I got back to the shop before quitting time and realized that I was in another predicament. You see, I had drove my motorcycle to work that day. Have you ever tried to ride a bike with one eye closed? It presents quite a problem with your field of vision. We came up with the following solution to get to Marietta, Georgia from Atlanta on my motorcycle. It so happened a friend and co-worker named Frank Vandervander had rode his bike to work that day. I said, Frank, you're going that way anyhow, so we'll ride together. You on the right, me on the left, lagging back a bit to keep you in my field of vision, thereby letting you see what's on the right. It worked quite well, and I made it home on the expressway with Frank's help. I often wish I still had that Kawasaki. The man I sold it to eventually wrecked it. Maybe it's the best idea that I did get rid of it. We had large hydraulic jacks in the shop, very much what you see in a garage for automobiles. They were built into the floor, so you just move the rail cars to the jacks and raised up one end of the car. Often it was the best way to have room to get under there. Sometimes we didn't jack the cars for small jobs, we just slid under and got it done quick. I recall once under a low-side gondola, the sides of those cars are only about 10 inches off the floor, so it takes some squeezing to get under there without jacking it up. The other guy under the car with me that day was a fellow carman named Greg Reed. When the jacks on the floor were raised, it prevents the rail car movers from functioning, so you can't shove the car off the jacks. They were referred to as rabbits, those car movers, and explaining them would require a whole new story. Anyway, you can move the cars with a rabbit if the jacks were down. Remember now, Greg and I were under that low-side gun. A foreman started the rabbit movement to bring new cars into the shop and forgot it was running. Consequently, when they got to the shop, they started shoving the gun that we were working under. Knowing I was too big to squeeze out before being run over by the wheels, I instinctively grabbed a handful of brake levers, attached myself under that car like gum stuck on the bottom of somebody's shoe, and began screaming, "Stop the rabbit! Stop the rabbit!" Greg was quick as a squirrel, scooted out and stopped the rabbit. If he hadn't, I would have stayed under that car till the gum on your shoe dried hard. Working in the shop should be a higher paying job than working on the train yards. Repairing rail cars is demanding hard work. Train yard carmen often get a chance to rest occasionally. Working on a repair shop, we had to be on our feet working constantly 8 full hours. There was no scheduled rest period other than lunchtime. The office nearby with the supervisors constantly watching out the windows while they sat on their behinds at their desks. They could see what we were doing. It didn't give us any slack to goof off much. So from time to time, it was a habit of ours to get our cardboard and slide under a rail car out of their view, smoke a cigarette or two, and occasionally bang on the side of the car with a hammer to make it sound like we were busy as bees. Working the shop would work you to death if you didn't know the ropes. In the summer, it was hot there, and in the wintertime, it was very cold. We had our methods of getting warm in the winter, or cool in the summer. We had a foreman by the name of Hugh Ivy. He was a very religious man and often loved to talk about stuff in the Bible. More than once or twice, maybe even 3 times or more, we would go in Hugh's warm office, ask him some question about the Bible, and get us a 15-minute break while he preached us a sermon. Oh, that office had an air conditioner as well. My time of working on the rail cars has long since passed. I have far too many memories about those days to relate in this particular story. But I appreciate y'all listening to me today. Pwalpar here saying, y'all have a good evening. We'll catch you next time.